Hey guys, Metal Jesus here. Now, if you were like me, you spent a lot of time in the 80s and 90s reading video game magazines. And one of my favorite parts of that experience are all the game advertisements that you would see inside, which had me thinking, would I actually recognize these games if I blurred out the title? Now, that's trickier than it sounds because some of these game advertisements would either have all brand new artwork or maybe they would take a variation of the cover art. It can be kind of tricky to tell what it is. And so for this video, I picked out advertisements from one particular issue we're going to take a look at. This is GamePro Magazine, February 1998. I'm curious to see how many you recognize. Let's take a look. We're going to start off fairly easy here. This is a variation on the official North American cover art of this classic RPG series. Although this isn't one of the main games in the series, it's actually, I don't know if you'd probably just call it like a side game or something like that, even though it's really popular itself. But it's cool because you get to see more of the cover art in this advertisement here. Also a little backstory into what the game is all about. So did you guess the game? Well, of course it is Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation 1. Now I have this game in my collection, but I haven't played it. I actually played this on the Game Boy Advance and I loved it. Let's try something a little harder, shall we? Now this advertisement looks awfully familiar to me. When I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this game. Barely. I don't think I've actually ever played it. But reading this ad, I'm like, oh my god, it's by the makers of Twisted Metal, Jet Moto. I love those two games. But again, I haven't played it, so I don't know anything about it. Did you guess the game yet? It is Critical Depth on the PlayStation 1. Tell me down in the comments if this is actually worth playing. I'd love to know. Here's a platforming game that is a sequel to a PC game called the Neverhood. What's striking about these games is that they have a very distinct visual style because it's all claymation. And you don't really see that very much in video games, probably because it's really hard to do. But one of the things I love about this era of gaming is that there's a lot of experimentation with the graphics, and this game being one of those. You have also games like Oddworld and also Donkey Kong Country just doing some really cool stuff that aren't using polygons. So do you recognize the game? That's right, it's Skull Monkeys on the PlayStation 1. By the way, the original Neverhood is super collectible on the PC. If you find it, let me know. Ah yes, a snowboarding game, but what's this? It's by Atlas? That's weird. And look at that review, they're comparing it to Mario Kart. Huh. Here's another clue. These games came out on the Nintendo 64, and both the original, which this one is, and also the sequel are highly sought after. Do you know what it is? That's right, it's Snowboard Kids, a game I really do enjoy if you can get past the kind of awkward controls. Ah yes, here is an ad I remember well. This ad was in all sorts of magazines, and to be quite honest, it's super gross, but it's pretty cool because I do love my horror games. And when I saw this, I was like, what the hell is this game? Now notice it's by Sega, but as far as I know, it only came out on the PC. Do you know what it is yet? Well, the name of the game is Flesh Feast, and it's funny, I've never played this game. I kind of want to play it. I'm sure it's terrible. Now, I've been looking for a big box PC version of this. Very, very difficult to find. Here's an advertisement for a racing game with a bit of an odd name. At least it seems like an odd name to me. So I'll give you a couple hints here. One, it's by THQ, but it's often compared to the Taito classic Chase HQ. Do you remember that game in the arcades? Well, this game's supposed to be kind of like a spiritual successor to that. Also, this game got pretty decent reviews back in the day, although it still continues to be somewhat of a hidden gem. Do you know what it is? Huh? That's right, it's ray tracers for the PlayStation 1. I don't have this yet in my collection, but I've heard good things about it. Ho ho! What's this? A Star Wars game? But which Star Wars game? That's the question, because as you know, there are literally 4.9 million Star Wars games made, but this one is fairly unique. It's unique because it's a one-on-one fighting game, very similar to, say, Tekken or Soul Calibur. Do you need some more hints? Well, this is an exclusive game to the PlayStation 1, and it's the first game that LucasArts ever made for that console. And I'll be honest, it didn't get good reviews. It's not great. Do you know what the game is? That's right, it is Star Wars Masters of Terras Kasai. I think that's right. Again, a one-on-one fighting game, not great. Let's move along. This next ad is somewhat notorious. I remember this very well because it's sort of, it's got a surprise, let's put it that way. So it's a 2-page ad and it has a little flap here on the right-hand side. Basically just shows an arm and it says, "This is your best weapon." It's a male arm, fairly strong, leather straps, could be the arm of Conan the Barbarian. You turn the flap and you're, whoa, alrighty. I think he's missing something there. I think it's only a flesh wound. So, do you remember this ad? Do you remember the game? Huh? The name of the game is Spawn the Eternal on the PlayStation 1. Another game I've never played, but man, the ad sure made an impression. Here's an ad for another racing game that may look somewhat familiar. The funny thing is I had to blur out a bunch of text here because I keep saying the name of the game over and over in the ad. But I bet some of you are going, oh, I totally know what that is. This is a great racing series. They released 4 games in total, but this is probably the best one. One of my favorite things about this game is that it's complete arcade action, over the top, big jumps, flipping your car. It's so killer. Also, this is back when Midway was just kicking butt. Man, I miss Midway, don't you? So do you know what game it is? That's right, it's San Francisco Rush Extreme Racing, being advertised for the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64. Towards the end of the magazine, you have a really striking ad here that at first glance, you're not exactly sure what this is supposed to be about. 2 people fighting, says you gotta do what you gotta do. You got some creepy guy over in the side here. I don't know what this is all about. It's definitely a cool looking ad, but one of the hints I would give you is that it is not for a game. It's actually for an accessory. Here's another hint. The company makes the accessory for the Saturn, the N64, and the PlayStation 1. Do you know what it is? That's right, it's the GameShark for the win. All right, guys, well, that is GamePro Magazine, February 1998, and I'd love to know down in the comments which games you recognize based on just the advertisements alone. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also maybe a share, because I'd love to do a whole series of videos like this. I've got a bunch more video game magazines I could do this with. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. You know, I'm curious, what subscriptions did you have to game magazines back in the day? Or if you didn't have a subscription, which ones did you buy religiously all the time? I know for me, being a PC gamer, it was all about Computer Gaming World and PC Gamer. And as a matter of fact, I still have a Game Informer subscription that I get through GameStop, part of their Power Up Rewards thing, but I actually do like the magazine a lot. Let me know.